How's everybody doing? So I am currently on vacation and I don't have a lot of stuff with me, but I figured I would take the opportunity now to just briefly explain the difference for some of you who may not know between a polyurethane finish guitar and a nitrocellulose finish guitar. Now keep in mind, I'm not a chemist, so this is just going to be coming from my own experience owning and playing both types of finishes and the things that I've noticed about each one. So first off, polyurethane is probably the most common finish you're going to find on a guitar. It's basically that hard, glossy finish that you'll find on like most mid-range guitars, like a lot of Korean-made Schecters that have like a gloss finish will have that. A lot of Epiphones will have that. And I mean, tons of other brands use polyurethane as well. It still allows you to see the wood grain and the stain through the final finish. So it gives it a glossy look where you can still see like the hard glossy coating and you can see completely through it to the wood grain. It's a good looking finish. It's pretty solid. It doesn't really age in terms of like yellowing. I mean, it really takes a lot for polyurethane to start to yellow, but it is susceptible to cracks or dings. Like if you bump a guitar, it's very likely that the finish will crack. What?
You recording?
Yeah.
Alright.
So from what I understand, polyurethane is relatively inexpensive to apply, and that's why many guitars use it. And what I've noticed and what I see as a downside to it is that because it is such a hard coating, it tends to hinder the resonance of the wood very, very slightly, but it does make a difference in the way a guitar feels, at least in terms of how much vibration you can feel to your hand from the body or from the neck with a polyurethane finish. Which leads me now to a nitrocellulose finish. Now, nitrocellulose is usually used on guitars that are more expensive. The reason being that it takes longer to apply, it takes a lot more time, so they have to obviously pay whoever's building the guitar more labor time to apply a nitrocellulose finish, and that's why it ends up being on guitars that cost more. And you'll find a nitrocellulose finish on most Gibsons, PRS, also many other higher end guitars. I think a lot of more expensive Fenders might even have it. So you might be wondering, why would you want that finish on your guitar if it costs more and it makes the guitar cost more to buy? And the answer to that is nitrocellulose, in my opinion, still allows a glossy finish look and you can still see the wood grain through the finish. But at the same time, nitrocellulose is much softer than polyurethane. And the result of that is that when you're playing the guitar, you can feel the resonance of the guitar. I think the guitar sounds a little bit better, or it feels better. It feels better as a player. Whether it sounds better or not, you know, that would be a hard thing to prove. But from my experience, nitrocellulose gives a guitar a glossy appearance, but it doesn't hinder the resonance of the guitar as much as polyurethane. I'm sure it does still hinder it somewhat from just bare wood. Another thing about nitrocellulose, which is a drawback, is that because it is softer, it is more susceptible to yellowing in terms of aging when certain chemicals, like even the oils from your skin, get onto it, or if you played like in a smoky setting, it might actually stain the color of the finish. They seem to be more susceptible to like sun damage. You know, you can see a guitar that's got a nitrocellulose finish that ages much differently than a polyurethane finish, and it usually looks to be older. And the reason being is that a lot of guitars that are actually decades old, that's the only finish that they used was nitrocellulose. So that's what those guitars look like now, and that's what we consider to be an old looking guitar, is the look of a guitar that's aged with nitrocellulose. One more aspect to consider about nitrocellulose is that because it is a much softer compound, that you need to be aware of what materials you're interacting with that finish. And by that I mean you should be aware of if you have a strap that the ends of it are like rubbing your guitar, you should want to know if that material of the strap is safe with nitrocellulose. Also with stands, that's a big one. If you're going to put your guitar on a stand, you want to know that the material that's touching the finish is safe for nitrocellulose. And some stands will tell you that specifically, and that's what you want to look for. I've never had this happen, but the way I understand it, certain stands, if you put a nitrocellulose finish guitar on it, the material of the stand will interact in a bad way with the finish, and it can actually discolor or leave a mark, or I've even seen people say where it looks like it's melting around where it was touching the stand. So that's something you would have to look out for. So really, nitrocellulose almost has more drawbacks, but the end result is, at least in my opinion, it feels more organic on the instrument, and it feels like the guitar resonates better with it. So to me, it's worth it. To a lot of players, it's worth it. But it'll depend on the price point of the guitar largely, and really what their goal is when they're building the guitar, whatever guitar it is. So as far as gloss finishes go, those are the big two. Those are my thoughts on the two, just what I've noticed from playing both types of finishes. My personal preference lies with nitrocellulose because, like I said, it is softer, it feels a little bit more organic, the way that the guitar resonates in your hand. And it's a slight difference in feel, it's a slight difference in resonance. By no means is it the biggest factor for the tone difference, but it is a difference and it is something to consider. And if you were wondering, why do some guitars have a polyurethane finish versus nitrocellulose? Well, the ones with polyurethane are probably going to be more mass produced. They're probably going to need to hit a certain price point as a goal more than a guitar that they want to build a nice guitar as a goal, and they're willing to add on like a significant cost just to make the finish a certain way. So hopefully I did a decent job explaining that to you guys. Like I said, I'm not a chemist. I can't really explain why one finish is harder than the other and why one interacts a certain way with other certain plastics or stand materials or whatever, but that's just what I've learned from my own experience owning both types of finishes, and also from what I've heard from people over the years and what I've read. So if you enjoyed that video, don't forget to share it and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.